Hi guys, and thank you so much for joining me. Whilst we are waiting, can someone please confirm that you can hear me? Seriously guys, I've been wanting to do this live since this morning, but honestly I've spent the whole day. Now it's 7:30 in the evening in the UK. I've spent the whole day trying to figure out how to do this live and how to make it work really, because for some reason I just didn't seem to figure out how to get it to work. So anyway, today I just want to go through the latest updates in the Orrin and Orson West investigation. And I want to go through with you. Let's watch the press conference from the DA office, which was released yesterday. And then also a couple of updates from the court from today. And I also want to read the arraignment documents for Trezell and Jacqueline. And yeah, so this is what we are going to be discussing today. So I want to start off with the most recent update in the case, which is what happened in court today, really. It's just a quick one. So obviously, Trezell and Jacqueline West, they both pled not guilty to second-degree murder charges and all the other charges as well. According to the judge, the parents were ordered to be held without bail, which is a really good thing because then they cannot run away. And really, they are supposed to appear in court next Tuesday to discuss a gag order requested by Deputy District Attorney Eric Smith. And the trial is set to begin in late May. But as far as I understand, they just received counsel today, both Trezell and Jacqueline West, and there is concern that the trial might be delayed until the new lawyers they get up to speed with the case. Basically, this is it. So they pled not guilty. They are held without bail, and we are due to go to trial at the end of May, hopefully. Let's see if I can make this thing work. Oh God. Can anyone who is watching me confirm that you can hear me? Okay, so let's move on to watching the district attorney's press conference from yesterday. If I can make this work. Let's see, how do I do this? So, share here. Right. Let's get this first. Okay. Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for joining. I will need to skip this a bit because I think they only start coming in at around minute 2. Let's see.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Zimmer. I am Kern County's District Attorney. I have information about Orrin and Orson West.
I'm going to pause this for a second. I just want you to confirm, please, that you can hear the video as well, the press conference. Great. Hi, Ripstacks. Thank you for joining. So, Ripstacks, before I start playing that video again, in today's live, I am covering the press conference from yesterday. Also, I mentioned what was said in court today about Trezell and Jacqueline West. And I will also be going through the arraignment documents. Okay, let's carry on with this video.
Two young boys who were reported missing from California City 14 months ago. On December 21st of 2020, Orrin was 4 years old and Orson was 3 years old. Their adoptive parents in California City, Trezell West and Jacqueline West, reported to the California City Police Department that the boys had disappeared from their backyard. The California City Police Department began a search for the boys in the area around their home. After a period of time, the FBI joined in the search, as did the California Highway Patrol and search and rescue from the Kern County Sheriff's Department. The community also came out to assist in looking for the boys, but to no avail. They were not located. 1 week later, crucial information came to light that necessitated the involvement of the Bakersfield Police Department and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. Law enforcement worked diligently, hundreds of hours in the next 12 months, looking for the boys. This morning, I'm saddened to announce that the investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing. However, I am pleased to announce that this week, the Kern County Grand Jury indicted Trezell and Jacqueline West, the adoptive parents, for the murder of Orrin and Orson West. The indictment charges 5 counts. The first count is murder. Charges them both with murder, with the victim being Orrin West. The second count charges murder, with the victim being Orson West. The third count charges felony child abuse against the person of Orrin West. The fourth count charges child abuse against the person of Orson West. And the fifth count charges false report of an emergency. Naturally, the first 2 counts carry the most time in state prison, murder. It is charged as murder in the second degree. That carries 15 years to life, but with 2 victims, the potential penalty or the maximum possible penalty, if convicted, is 30 years to life for each defendant, Trezell and Jacqueline West. Now, the grand jury indictment is a formal charging document, and we followed a process in charging them before the grand jury, and that was the district attorney requested that the grand jury convene to hear evidence regarding an indictment that we presented them. The district attorney's office then presented information to the grand jury, and the grand jury found there was sufficient evidence to hold Trezell and Jacqueline West responsible for these murders, and they returned what was called a true bill. So oftentimes we call it they were indicted, but what they did is returned a true bill on the indictment. Department 1 Superior Court judge issued warrants for the arrest of the defendants, and they were arrested last night at about 7 p.m. in Kern County. They are currently in the Kern County Jail waiting for an arraignment on the indictment, which will be tomorrow. There will be no preliminary hearing in this case because an indictment is a substitute for a preliminary hearing. In this case, will proceed directly to trial. The announcement of an indictment in this case probably raises a lot of questions about the facts of the case and what you and the public would like to know. I'm not permitted to go over the facts of the case in this case, but there is something that I'd like to discuss because the facts of the case are to be what we produce in the jury trial, because we want both the prosecution and the defense to have a fair trial in this case. However, one of the questions that I'm sure you would like to know is, have the bodies of Orrin and Orson been found? And the answer to that is no, they have not been found. However, I would like to emphasize that the fact that law enforcement have not found their bodies does not preclude a murder prosecution. As a matter of fact, there have been many hundreds of what we call no-body homicides prosecuted across the United States successfully, and even no-body homicides have resulted in murder convictions in Kern County. I'd like to introduce...
I'm just going to stop this for a second because I think that it's very interesting to know that they can place the rough time of death of Orrin and Orson sometime in September. Hi, Amelia. Thank you so much for joining. And also the fact that they have decided to charge them without bodies tells me that there is substantial circumstantial evidence against them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken this straight on with the charges. So I am curious to know if did they do something to the boys before they moved to Cal City, or did they move from Bakersfield to Cal City because of what happened to the boys in Bakersfield, so they can lose the trail and sort of distance themselves from the crime scene, so to speak, although we still don't know where the crime scene was. But I'm sure that at this point, the investigators, they know many more details than we do. Amelia is saying, I think one of the older kids said something incriminating. Yes, I tend to believe that as well. And there are a couple of interesting things in the arraignment documents as well, which we will go through after this video is finished. The length of the conference is around 25 minutes in total, I believe, around that time. But yes, I think that one of the kids did say something, especially being that they have been taken away. They also, I assume, received some kind of therapy, counseling, and probably they felt comfortable in, you know, speaking out.
The people who are standing here with me today, who have been crucial in bringing this case forward. Eric Smith is the person to my right here. Eric Smith is the supervisor of the homicide unit at the DA's office. Next to him is Bryant Estep, also a homicide prosecutor in the DA's office. And these two gentlemen are the people from my office who presented the evidence to the grand jury. And this grand jury hearing began 3 months ago in December of 2021. Mr. Smith, would you like to come say a few words?
On behalf of myself and, of course, Deputy District Attorney Brian Estep, I would like to thank the allied agencies who worked tirelessly throughout this investigation. That includes also the Kern Regional Crime Lab and also the DA investigators in this case. Kern County law enforcement worked together at first in an attempt to locate Orrin and Orson West. And as that continued, it turned into the investigation into the disappearance and ultimately the homicide of the two boys. The lead investigative agencies, Bakersfield Police Department, California City Police Department, they worked tirelessly throughout the course of this over a year since this occurred to follow up on leads and complete the investigation. Investigation that was continued even throughout the grand jury hearing. The indictment itself took approximately 3 months. Over 50 witnesses testified during the course of the indictment. Much of those witnesses' testimony was extremely emotional as it related to this case. But that's to be expected from a case that involves the murder of two innocent children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. To my left are two chiefs of the lead agencies in this case that did most of the work. Bakersfield Police Chief Greg Terry and California City Police Chief John Walker. Chief Terry, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is not the outcome that we and so many had hoped and prayed for over the last year. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of Orrin and Orson, who, with this news today, their worst fears have been realized. I want to express my pride and appreciation to our homicide team, who invested so much personally and professionally to find the truth in this investigation. We now realize that the search for the boys began after the real tragedy had already occurred. But it is the work and diligence of the investigators, our partners, California City Police Department, the FBI, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and many, many other law enforcement agencies, community members, our own community members, and members of the public. That diligence, that refusal to give up is why we are here today. I also want to express my appreciation to our District Attorney, Cindy Zimmer, for her leadership and for her commitment to the safety of our families here in Kern County, no matter how difficult the case. We also would not be here without the teamwork and support of the District Attorney staff. They provided invaluable support to our investigators, a perspective and advice and counsel along the way. And again, we would not be here without that support as well. And the last thing I would say is this is not a resolution in this case. And there will not be a resolution completely in this case until these boys are brought home.
He seems very emotional. Amelia is saying those two had to know their time was limited before they'd be caught. Yes, definitely. But also, I think that, in a way, Trezell probably thought that he's going to get away with it. If you remember at the beginning, when they were working towards getting the mortgage for the house in Cal City, the realtor, he developed a friendship with her, and she said that he was really into conspiracies and true crime content and this kind of related things. So I'm guessing that maybe at one point he believed that, he planned the perfect crime and he got away with it, because not a lot of things have happened for 15 months, really. So, yeah. And, it begs the question that if Trezell was into conspiracies and true crime cases, and I think that he even mentioned the Chris Watts case, I think that he kind of got some ideas from here and there and probably came up with a plan and was thinking that if he executes the plan properly, then he's not going to get caught.
Thank you, Chief Terry. Chief Walker, would you like to address the audience?
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Let me emphasize, first and foremost, this is a tragedy, an absolute tragedy that was reported in my city, that two small boys could be killed by their parents. But I do have to say how proud I am of my department from the second we got the call until we brought in so many resources. And we're very grateful for that. But the second we got the call, we were on scene. We began to work it and look for these kids. And we had so many agencies involved, Kern County Sheriffs, the Search and Rescue, CHP came with their helicopter to help us. But the citizens of Cal City came out in numbers to look for these kids. And it began to grow to the outlying communities and eventually across the nation. We were getting people who were interested and they wanted to know where these kids were as well as us. And then eventually Chief Terry and the Bakersfield PD came in to help us out, and they've been instrumental to make this happen. So I want to thank all those people again for helping us to try to come to some kind of resolution with this. But again, the bottom line is we have 2 small boys that we believe are no longer here that are dead, and that's terrible. But and again, I want to thank the District Attorney, Cindy Zimmer, for being brave and diligent to push this forward and actually bring this case to the surface. So we will push forward. We haven't given up, and we'll continue to give them any kind of help that they would need in the future. Thank you.
I want to jump in real quick on this one again, just because Chief Walker was talking, and that's why, you know, guys, a lot of us at the beginning of this investigation, we were so judgmental towards the police and towards Chief Walker as well, and so many of us kept trying to find, negative things about him from his past and so on. But on one hand, we were not supposed to know a lot of the things, and on the other hand, yes, there were more departments involved in the investigation, but although it's 15 months later, still charges have been brought. And this just goes to show that they have been working behind the scenes. Obviously, they didn't inform the public so that it doesn't damage their investigation. But so many YouTubers and so many people in general, they jump to conclusions from the beginning about the police investigation, about the all kind of conspiracies that, for example, Chief Walker, he was an actor and he was acting in this case as well. And, so sort of like just speaking here and there, anything and everything really, which you can find negative about a person. But I think that the reason why it was the way it was because they had to keep all those information to themselves.
Thank you, Chief Walker. While the defendants in this case, Trezell and Jacqueline West, are presumed innocent, the securing of a grand jury indictment is a major step in ensuring that there will be justice for Orrin and Orson. This case has tugged at the heartstrings of people in my office and in law enforcement and in this community. It is a horrific tragedy that these precious little boys had to lose their lives. But I want to thank everyone who was involved in this case, law enforcement officers. It must have been so difficult for them, who searched for Orrin and Orson, the community members that came out and helped search, and then the community members that just continue to care about what happened to them. So if you have any questions, those are the end of my comments, but keep in mind there are ethical restraints as far as what we can talk about prior to the trial in this case.
Well, let me try.
Thank you. I think he had his hand up first.
Thank you, District Attorney. How can we confirm that the boys had died 3 months prior to their reported disappearance if bodies haven't been found? Can you kind of explain how that works?
No, I cannot, but I can tell you the facts in court will show that we were able to prove that to the grand jury, that the boys have died, that they were murdered. And we did that through a combination of direct and circumstantial evidence. And the grand jury was convinced that they were dead. Thank you.
Given that you say that they died 3 months before this was reported, and the fact that Trezell and Jacqueline lived in Bakersfield and then moved to California City, Chief Walker, do you believe, can anybody say whether Orrin and Orson were ever in California City to begin with?
Mr. Gaspar, that's a good question, and that's something we're going to answer during the trial.
Can't say more than that.
We cannot go into the facts of the case.
As far as trying a case with other body, because since I assume you don't know where the boys are. Is that right?
We don't know where their bodies are.
You
That's
don't-
what I said.
Okay, so you don't know where the bodies are. What will that present kind of a difficulty in trying this case without a body? Public out there, and at least some that I've run into say, well, they can't try somebody without a body. How are they going to do that?
As I explained in my earlier statements, no body homicides are tried all the time. And we have evidence that was sufficient to convince the grand jury, and we have sufficient evidence that we believe will convince a jury that they are not alive. And we have evidence.
Have you tried a case here without a body before in Kern County?
Yes, we have tried to successfully, at least that I know off the top of my head. I have those names, the Leonard Bryce Thomas case and the Daniel Rhodes case, successful murder convictions. And there may be more, but those are two that I can remember. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why second-degree murder in this case rather than first?
No, I cannot. I can't really discuss the theory of liability in the case because that would involve the facts.
And then also, I'm so sorry, one more question. Can you talk a little bit about why you guys decided to go down the grand jury route and attain that rather than the average procedure?
I've done over 20 grand jury indictments myself throughout my career. It is something that we commonly do on homicide cases, which involve calling live witnesses. And also sometimes we do it because there has to be a little bit of starting and stopping regarding scheduling. A preliminary hearing is continuous. You don't have start and stops. And at a grand jury hearing, you can do 2 days of testimony 1 week, so there are a variety of reasons that we considered in this case. And a lot of, if you look back on some of our high profile homicide cases, most of them did go to grand jury. Yes.
Okay. Amelia, I want to address your comment. I just read somewhere that the other kids killed the boys on the parents' direction. That's why they are getting second degree. I don't know how true it is. While I know that the difference between first degree murder and second degree murder, with first degree murder, there is usually evidence that it's premeditated, planned, whereas the second degree murder is not, it hasn't been planned. There is no indication that it was planned in any way. It could have been accidental or something which happened without it being planned. So I'm not sure exactly why. I guess we will need to wait and find out from the trial.
We have unconfirmed reports that a white RV was pulled over by law enforcement yesterday at Highway 43 and Highway 58. And some were saying this was possibly where Trezell and Jacqueline were taken into custody. Are you able to confirm that? And also near Potomac Avenue, the neighborhood where Trezell and Jacqueline have been living with his parents after they moved back from California City, there was a helicopter with a searchlight going over around, I want to say 7, 8 o'clock last night. Can you confirm that that was looking for Trezell and Jacqueline?
The defendants, Trezell and Jacqueline West, were taken into custody last night around 7 p.m. by the Bakersfield Police Department in western Kern County.
How did that happen? How did you find out that the Winnebago that was there? We had spotted it earlier in the day in Edison, and then it was the same Winnebago that you guys found yesterday. How can you say what tipped you off that the Winnebago was there at Enos Lane and Highway 58?
No. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What does this say about the vetting and background process for adopting parents here in Kern County?
Ma'am, it's not the job of the district attorney to talk about those types of things. It's the job of the district attorney to look and see if a crime was committed and bring those guilty parties to justice. Yes.
Are the defendants cooperating, and have they admitted to any wrongdoing?
I can't discuss. That is absolutely prohibited any type of statements by the ethical canons that attorneys are required to follow. I won't comment on the evidence specifically. I won't comment on statements. Yes.
Are these the only arrests that are going to be taking place in this case? Is there plans to bring in anybody else or to arrest anybody else involved in this?
If I had those plans, I probably wouldn't tell you, but I can't tell you anyway. It's a good question. I don't mean to be trite, but I'm not going to comment on that. Yes.
I'm sorry, I do
Go
have
ahead.
one more. We do know that Orson and Orrin were 2 of 4 adopted kids. They also had another 2 biological kids. Any idea of the whereabouts of the other 2 adopted kids and the biological kids as well? And were there any signs or prior signs of prior abuse in the household with the other 4 kids?
I'm not able to discuss that, but it's not like the other 4 are missing. They are in the care and custody of the Child Protective Services. Yes.
Were Trezell and Jacqueline West under surveillance for a considerable amount of time before you made an arrest?
I cannot answer that. I mean, I know, but I shouldn't be answering that. Yes.
Have you spoken to the biological parents of Orrin and Orson since you learned of this news? And if so, what was their reaction to this?
Well, Mr. Smith has had contact with some of the biological family in this case, and I would have to defer to him about that. Our office, grand jury proceedings are secret. They are confidential. They are not to be revealed until after an arrest is made in this case, and in any case. So we will, now that there has been an arrest made, we'll be able to talk to the family of the victims more so, but even before that, we weren't able to really go into detail with them, although I can tell you we have had contact with the family.
Was it a unanimous vote with the grand jury to bring forth the indictment?
I don't think that's something that can ever be revealed. I think that's confidential information in the hands of the grand jury. I can tell you that there was sufficient number to do it, or it wouldn't have been a valid indictment. But whether it was unanimous or not unanimous, I don't know, because they don't tell us.
Can you say which legal counsel will represent the suspects?
They will be arraigned tomorrow in court, and if they cannot afford counsel, they will be appointed, or if they want to retain counsel, they can do that. So we don't know. We won't know in the criminal matter who their attorneys will be until tomorrow morning.
So they have retained counsel. I think it was given to them. I don't think that they could afford to get counsel themselves. As far as I know from what I was reading earlier.
How do you guys plan to bring this news to the biological family? Obviously, you know, we're saying you guys have given confirmation that both boys are deceased as well, but there's no concrete evidence showing this. It sort of feels what's been going on for almost the past year, where the family and the community has sort of been left without any answers. And that constant question has been brought up, you know, where are the boys? And I mean, you're saying there's concrete or, you know, confirmation that they are deceased, but how would you guys?
It's called a jury trial, sir. Okay. That's where we will prove that they are deceased. And we have, and the grand jury has already found that they are deceased, and we have presented evidence that. As far as the news that went to the biological family, I think the news did that last night. I mean, we were out at the scene with biological family before we were even had the defendants in custody or had an opportunity to do this press statement today. So as far as news to the family, I think that I think they already know. Yes. And just a couple more questions, please.
Could you talk a little bit about the sentencing for the other 2 charges, the willful cruelty to the child? What's kind of the average for that as well?
Well, what that term carries is 6 years. Okay. Correct, Mr. Smith? 6 years.
And would that be changed because there's 2 counts of that, or for each defendant?
That's kind of a complicated sentencing question. You look to see if the conduct supporting the homicide charge, and you take what's called it's a determining sentencing, or whether or not you get any more time on the child abuse cases counts if they're convicted on the murder kind of depends on the facts and circumstances.
One question for the Chief John Walker. You did submit your resignation recently to the department, to resign as chief of the California City Police Department. Can you give us a reason, why you decided to resign from the department, your plans, or so forth?
I think that really has no bearing on this, so, I'd like to stick to the subject, but yes, it's, I've been there for 2 years, I've done my best, and it's time for me to move on.
Are there any more questions? One last question.
Amelia, yes, she was visibly irritated by some of the questions, but the most surprising thing to me was the fact that Chief Walker decided to resign. I read on the police Facebook page, I think the other day, that yeah, he resigned, and this is the confirmation that indeed he did resign, which is, I think, it's a shame, I think. But why do you guys think that he resigned? I think honestly that it was because of the pressure, maybe to do with the Orrin and Orson West investigation, and to save face, so to speak. I have no idea, but my gut feeling is telling me that it has something to do with Orrin and Orson West. Yeah, I just found out myself maybe yesterday or the day before yesterday, just scrolling through their Facebook page. So it was very surprising when I found out about it, yeah. Okay, let's see if there is any last question here.
Yes.
I know you can't say how the boys were murdered. I understand that. Can you say if you believe you know how it happened?
No, I can't say anything like that. We are prohibited from going into the facts of the case. And obviously we know what the facts of the case are. I can't go into anything further than that. And just invite you to cover the trial in which the facts will be produced. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your excellent questions. I hope I was able to answer them to the extent that I could. You all have a very nice day.
Okay, so that was the press conference. What do we think? Yeah, maybe, you never know. You could. I think that the questions that the reporters put on there, they were very repetitive, and also asking what they already knew that they won't be able to answer. So yes, justice is coming. Finally, we have to be a bit more patient, but yes, hopefully. And I think that one of them might get a plea deal. I think they will try to move this as quickly as possible, so they don't give them enough time to think and to decide sort of on the spot, really. And one of them might receive a plea deal, maybe less time if they say where the bodies are. Also, I think that more people will be arrested in connection with this. I think that more people knew about what they did and help them cover it up. Oh, hey, JD, I haven't seen you in ages. Yes, I think you will be. And yeah, like I said, I think more people will be arrested. And they had over 30 witnesses for the indictment, for the arraignment. So a lot of people spoke, but it's a shame they didn't speak when they needed to. So I just want to, lastly, before I move on to the last point that I want to make today, I'm just going to, say this again, what happened at the hearing today. So both of them, Trezell and Jacqueline West, they pled not guilty to the charges. They are being held without bail. because the judge deemed them a significant risk to the public, and obviously we don't want them to run away. And the next, the trial should be in late May. However, they only got counsel today, so there is a bit of a concern that they might have to delay the trial date because of the counsel until they are informed and updated and, you know, catching up on everything. Okay, so the last is the arraignment documents. They are 6 pages, I think. But first I need to figure out how I can add them on here. Hi, Nadine. Thank you so much for joining. Can I? Oh. Let's see. Maybe I can do it this way. No? No. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just a second. I'm trying to figure out how to add the photos on here. No, I don't know how to do it. Oh my God. There's always something. Okay, I'll do it differently then. Oh. Let's see. Okay, finally, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. So this will be the first page of the arraignment, and I'll just move on to the second one and I'll start reading for you. Okay. On or about September the 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, Trezell West and Jacqueline West did with malice murder Orrin West, a human being, in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, second degree murder, a felony. So they believe that between the 1st of September through to September 30th, so that's a very wide timeline, really. It would be interesting to know what exactly made them to pinpoint to the 1st through September 30th. So we are still a bit unclear if something happened with Orrin and Orson before they moved to Cal City or after they moved to Cal City. It is further alleged that the defendant Trezell West and Jacqueline West committed a crime that involved great violence, threat of great bodily harm, or other acts, disclosing a high degree of cruelty, viciousness, or callousness. So this honestly suggests to me that they have this information from a witness, at least one witness, so someone who was present and saw what happened, which leads me to believe that it could be one of the children or all of the children. It is further that the victim Orrin West was particularly vulnerable within the meaning of California Rules of Court 4421. It's further alleged that the defendant Trezell West and Jacqueline West induced others to participate in the commission of the crime or occupy the position of leadership or dominance of other participants in its commission within the meaning of California Rules of Court. So I think that, Amelia, this is what you meant when you said that they pushed the children to do something. So it's clear here, it says clearly that Trezell and Jacqueline induced others to participate in the commission of the crime or occupy the position of leadership. So it's either that they've influenced the others to do something. Again, I'm thinking about the children because I think that they could have potentially been the only witnesses as to what happened to Orrin and Orson. So it was either that they enticed the children to do it or pushed the children to do it, or one of the children to do it, or they took leadership. So they did it and maybe others joined in. It's still a bit unclear at this point. But even if they would push the children to do it or, you know, entice them to do it, still, I think that Trezell was very controlling and manipulative and aggressive. And I think that not only Jacqueline was scared of him, but I think that the children were scared of him as well. It is further alleged that the defendant Trezell West and Jacqueline West took advantage of a position of trust or confidence to commit the offense. And now let's go to the next page. Did I go to the next page? Oh my God. Hold on, let me see. Scope in this to commit the offense. Yes, okay. On or about September the 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, Trezell West and Jacqueline West did with malice murder Orson West, a human being. It is further alleged that the defendant Trezell and Jacqueline committed a crime that involved great violence, threat of great bodily harm, or other acts disclosing a high degree of cruelty, viciousness, or callousness. I've read this before. It's further that the victim, Orson West, was particularly vulnerable. It's further alleged that the defendant, Trezell and Jacqueline, induced others. I've read this already. I don't know what's happening. It's Yes, but there is a bit of change in the last paragraph. It is further alleged that the defendant, Trezell West and Jacqueline West, that the manner the crime was carried out indicates planning, sophistication, or professionalism. So planning, this is very interesting to note here. Planning indicates planning. So they have been planning this then. So if they have been planning this, I'm wondering why are they being charged with second-degree murder? That's very interesting. And if this was planned, it could very well go back to what I just mentioned a bit earlier in this live, with Trezell being very interested in conspiracies and true crime cases in general. He could have inspired himself from this, and maybe having this many kids, it was just too much for them, and maybe they did this in the hopes that they will still get the money for Orrin and Orson, although they are not there anymore. I have no idea when he planned this or when both of them planned this, what they were thinking, how they were thinking is going to work. I have no idea. Yes, I think I got confused, Amelia, for a second there. Okay, moving on to the next. On or about September the 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, Trezell West and Jacqueline West did willfully harm or endanger Orrin West, a human being. So this talks about Orrin West. And it is further alleged that the defendant Trezell and Jacqueline induced a minor to commit or assist in the commission of the crime within the meaning of California Rules of Court 4421. So they induced a minor. So it could be one of the children. I think I'm quite sure it's one of the children. Maybe the oldest one. Induced a minor to commit or assist in the commission of the crime, unless after the fact they ask the help of one of the children or all of the children to cover it up. Maybe that's what they mean. It is further alleged that the defendant, Trezell West and Jacqueline West, threatened witnesses, unlawfully prevented or dissuaded witnesses from testifying, suborned perjury, or in any way illegal interfered with the judicial process. There you go. This is another interesting point. So they threatened witnesses and they were trying to persuade them from testifying and to commit perjury, which tells me, and I'm sure all of you, that witnesses came forward with these accusations against them. So yeah, that is very telling as well. Maybe that's why nobody was talking, because they were too scared. But I don't know. Let's see the last one here. If there is anything else to be added. So again, we are talking about planning, sophistication, or professionalism. Count 5, so that's the last one. On or about December 21st, 2020, Trezell West and Jacqueline West did falsely report an emergency in violation of Penal Code Section 148.3, which is a misdemeanor. So this is basically the arraignment paperwork. So this is it, guys. Okay, let's see what we think. Let's see what we think here. My hair is so dirty. Oh my God. Sorry. So witnesses came forward. Eventually, they did. Amelia is saying it's exact for each boy. Follow the money. Yes, follow the money. That's true. That's true. Yes. And I think that the relatives helped them in covering up this or get rid of evidence. I think, if I remember well, there was a fire at Wanda's property. And I think that that fire was partly to get rid of evidence. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you. You know where I got it from? I got it from Wish. Wish.com. Yes. I usually buy my stuff from Wish and from AliExpress because I like the styles better than the ones which I find here in the UK. They are more colorful. With Wish, it takes around 1 month for the delivery, and with AliExpress, sometimes it can take 2-3 months. But each time when I ordered from both AliExpress and Wish as well, I was never disappointed, if I'm honest with you, never. A lot of people are saying that Wish and AliExpress, they are rubbish qualities and this kind of things, but you would be surprised if you'd actually buy from there. And I even use teeth whitening from AliExpress, which I can't find here. And that's the only one that seems to be working because I drink a lot of coffee and I smoke as well. So okay, so I guess I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in today's live. Thank you so much to everyone for joining, and I will keep you posted if there are any new updates. For now, I think that we need to wait for the trial and see what happens. And obviously, I'm going to be following this. I think that the trial will be broadcasted, if not by the court or the reporters. I was watching a bit earlier AV Watchman's live from court, and he said that he will actually get into court and he will live stream. He only needs to get a permit beforehand. So we will have eyes in the courtroom anyway. Do I, Nadine? Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Take care and stay safe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.